Mr. Mark Bitcover, otherwise known as Marky B. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's going to be fun. By the way, the show
Awesome.
is all about this. I wore this
Yes,
t-shirt
yes.
just for Raleigh. There are
What
two
is
types of people in the world. Number one, those who can extrapolate from incomplete data. And as you notice, the rest of the t-shirt is blank. Figure it out. Think about it.
I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. Guys who are just now coming in, let us know where you're signing in from, what city, what state, what country, wherever you are. And I'm curious, how do you feel about numbers? Do you use numbers a lot in your business? In other words, do you use it to kind of fuel your growth? Do you look at the trends that are going on and seeing how that affects what's going on in your business? Or do you use numbers more internally amongst your own staff? We're always talking about growth subjects on Growth Monday. And so whether you're a recruiter like myself or you're a business person, or you're someone looking to grow your career, no doubt numbers play a big part in what you're doing. Whether you're actively using them or not, they are playing a part in what you're doing. And one of the things that I have noticed, even those who are in their careers, whenever you list things out on your resume, if you don't know numbers, if you don't have your numbers ready to display on that resume, it actually can really give you a disadvantage compared to those who do use numbers in their resumes. But anyway, I want to talk about first the reason why I asked Mark to be on this show is there was something he mentioned on a comment one day. I should went back and looked at the comment again just to kind of refresh my memory. But what really kind of drew me is that there are some misnomers about numbers, and I wanted to remark on it, kind of help us to kind of sift through that. He actually is an expert, I would say an expert in my opinion, in this field of really taking numbers and actively applying it to something in the business. And so, Mark, can you tell us a little bit about your background as to how you got here in terms of, because I know you're Lean Six Sigma, kind of explain kind of what that means and the training you had in order to help you to get to where you are and how you analyze numbers.
Sure. So, I mean, personally, and a lot of Lean Six Sigma people will hate me for this, but I separate Lean manufacturing and Six Sigma. They're two different things. I think Six Sigma, there was a continuous improvement, like fight to the death, like in the early 90s, and it was continuous improvement, Lean manufacturing, Six Sigma, and cycle time reduction were fighting it out. And Six Sigma saw they were losing. And so some brain, probably someone from GE or Motorola, who's our Six Sigma guru, said, let's add Lean to the title. So yeah, Lean Six Sigma. But the Six Sigma part, just always, I'm an engineer by trade, even though I do music and other creative stuff. So numbers are important, like especially since one of the things I designed was parts for airplanes that help navigate the airplanes. You mess up there. I won't mention any names, but remember one of the shuttles disaster that was all about numbers and the misnomer there. You know what happened there, don't you? So
No,
one
so
team
that was all about
operated in a
numbers.
metric system. The other ones were all in ANSI, which is inches, feet, stuff like that. That's what messed it up.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. So, and I don't know if you ever seen This Is Spinal Tap, but
No, I have
when they
not.
make, if you've seen This Is Spinal Tap, they had a song about Stonehenge, and they wanted like this big giant stage thing, and the guy, like the single quotation mark, like a single one, apostrophe, that means feet, and double means inches. So the guy accidentally wrote down inches, so they get it, and it's like this big, like my hands. The guy puts it on the table and he goes, "Here's your Stonehenge," and they're like, "Oh, so this is the model. This looks really good." He goes, "What are you talking about? The model? This is the actual." What? Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, yeah, actually, Mark, I've done that on Amazon, where I would look at this beautiful picture of this item that I really wanted. Maybe it's a
Yep.
bag or something that holds stuff, and I
Yeah.
don't take the time to look at the dimensions. And then I actually
Oh
get
yeah,
it in
yeah,
the
yeah,
mail, and it's a little
yeah.
small thing.
Well, I'm a Big Bang Theory fan, and there's an episode where they order through eBay. Yeah, they get a model. I don't know if you've ever seen the original movie Time Machine, but it has
No,
a
I don't
really
think so.
cool time machine in it. So they thought they were buying a model like about this big, and then it
Hmm.
ships them. It's the actual full size model.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they're going, oops. Yeah, so things like that happen in numbers. You got to pay attention.
Yeah,
You got to pay
absolutely.
attention to dimensions. You got to pay attention What are the just because you have a number, everybody thinks they have a number and they're cool and they understand it. It's like, no, you need to know the measurement system. You need to know how those numbers were collected. You need to know how they were analyzed. Otherwise, they don't mean anything. And to me, that's going to become more and more important. All of us that are small, like not Meta, not Alphabet, not Amazon, are going to have to become number ones. We will have to be able to extrapolate with incomplete data because we'll be competing against people who have Yoda bytes of, lots and lots and lots and lots of data. And guess what? They can be lazy. Remember that article I referred to in Wired? Love that article, even though it's 2008. What is that? 14 years ago, but it still applies. Back then, they were talking about petabytes of data. Forget that. Right. We've gone that 1,000 times 1,000 times 1,000. So like Amazon and Meta and Alphabet, if you don't know, that's Google and Facebook. Google and Facebook. They have access, and so do a lot of other companies. They have access to just data and more data. Yeah. And when you have that, you don't have to use statistics. You don't have to use Six Sigma. You can just go, you know what? I'm Rollis and I'm interested in this event. This event would be this person gets hired. And then they can look back and they go, okay, all we're going to do is pattern recognition. So I'm interested in outcome F. So I'm going to look at what is the biggest E, like event E that occurs before that. What is the biggest event D? And they can just look at it because they have all this data and they'll be able to go A, B, C, D. And then at any time, when event A occurs, 90% of the time, that person's going to get hired. If A and B occurs, that ups it to 95% and all that kind of stuff. And they'll be able to do that and just kick our butts. So we're going to have to use like Six Sigma statistics to even compete with them. And that's even if we go in when we play funnels and stuff.
Okay, so Mark, because I don't want to lose folks who are watching it because you're using some terms that they may not resonate with them. So
I know that's why you're here. You're the host.
I want to make sure.
Slow them up, slow them down.
Yeah. Okay. So just to kind of slow up a little bit here, you talked about petabytes. Most of us who are watching, we're used to having gigabytes, right, on our computers, and then recently we've been working with terabytes. So correct. Petabytes is way more than that, and then this new thing you're talking about is way bigger than that, right?
Yeah. Well, so peta is 1,000 times tera, and then what's next? I think it's exa is 1,000 times peta, which means it's 1,000,000 times terabytes, and then Yoda is like 10 to the 6 past that. So that's, what is that? That's a billion. I think Yoda byte is a billion terabytes.
Yeah, let's just say it's a lot. It's a lot more than any of us. We don't have the resources to have that kind of storage in our home.
I think most people don't have the resources to do analyze a terabyte of data.
That's probably true.
I think people have access. Like most of us might have access to a terabyte of data, but I don't think they have the resources to do pattern recognition.
Right, but the point that you're making is that we don't have near the access to resources of an Amazon or Google or Facebook.
We don't have the numbers.
However, though, we do have some things at our disposal, and I do want to focus on those things. So one of the things that I think that I remember that resonated with me is that you distinctly made a difference between, I think it was causality, I believe, when you have one set of numbers and you're trying to associate with another set of numbers. Because I want to help people who are watching to understand there is a difference. Because if someone comes to you and says, okay, this number and puts them together as if they affect each other, that may not be the case. There should be some process we have to make sure that that's the case. So can you explain that a little bit for us to make sure we understand?
Oh, sure. So, I mean, I can boil it down in one sentence. Correlation does not equal causation. So a lot of people think, for example, one of my favorite examples is shark attacks increase when the temperature is 75 or above. Like they even have a percentage of that. And then, I messed that up. Sorry. I already gave you the punchline. There's a thing that when ice cream sales are greater, as ice cream sales increase, so do shark attacks. So that's a correlation. So if you just went correlation to causation, you'd go, oh, buying ice cream causes shark attacks. It's like, no. What is another correlation from buying ice cream? When it's warm out. So when it's warm out, what do people do? When it's warm out, more people go to the beach. Well, guess what? Some beaches have sharks. And we have proven again and again that sometimes we don't heed warnings or think about stuff. We don't think anything's going to happen to us. So when you got a bunch of people thrashing around, and by the way, our signature in the water is similar to an injured fish. So the shark goes, hey, there's an injured fish up there. I'm going to go get it. Anyway, so just ice cream sales increasing does not cause increase in shark attacks. It's just there's a correlation in between, and you have to discern that. That's all.
Yes,
that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yes. And so what I want to do with this business or this episode is, those of you who are watching, I want you to think about this for a second. That you may be looking at one number and thinking that this number affects this other number, when it may not be the case at all. There may be something in between that's correlating those two. Yep. That you need to have access to that data. I know in our business, they'll say, well, what you're doing, how do we know, like let's say with recruitment videos, how do we know it's working? I need to be able to track individual applicants to what you're doing that's working. And we've actually found some ways in some cases to do that, but we always tell the client, you're not going to be able to correlate those exactly. The only way that you can really show correlation is if you change nothing else about your whole process, you use our service for a while, stop using our service for a while, and then try and take out any of the other mitigating factors that could be existing in between those cases. And that may give you somewhat of an idea, but otherwise, it's going to be difficult to try and always say, okay, when we do these things, that's going to bring more applicants or not bring more applicants, and I need to track them individually. So that's what I want to make sure that our audience just thinks about that.
You just described the scientific method.
Okay.
You have a hypothesis. Rouse's services increases my ability to get good employees. Then you got to test it out. And then exactly what he said. Okay, we think it's true, but we don't have enough evidence. Let's remove his service for a month and see what happens.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we actually did it.
People don't do that usually, by the way.
It's true. Exactly. They don't. We've actually been able to track that usually with most clients, the amount of applicants for these hard to fill positions go up by anywhere from 30 to sometimes 50%. And so at the same time, though, some of those applicants may not have went through the applicant tracking, the landing page we use. They may not have gone through there.
Right.
They may have actually gone through straight to the company's career site page.
Right.
So even though we can't track that, it's still attributable, because unless they did something else that was amazing, right, during that same time period, it probably came from the increased activity that we did on the recruitment video side. So I know there must be tons of other examples that the folks who are watching could probably come up with. And if you do have an example you'd like to test with Mark, let's do it. And he can help us kind of walk through that. I see Robert Berry is here with us. He says numbers are important. The actions taken after looking at the numbers are instrumental. And he says you're a genius, Mark.
Is he an auditor or something?
He should know a thing or two about numbers, right?
Yeah. No, Rob's good with numbers. Yeah. So I mean, exactly.
He also says there is a difference. He says there's a difference between Lean and Six Sigma. So what would you say?
Oh yeah, there is.
What's the difference?
Well, so Lean is mainly attributed to the Toyota production system, and so that is
okay.
You do look at data, but it's quicker, it's easier, and you rely more on the people touching your product. So whether it's a physical product or an intellectual product. So touching an intellectual product, obviously, is someone's brain. But you're going to the people that do this stuff, and they do it over and over again. And in the most pristine Lean environment, you have processes, and everybody follows the same steps. And a lot of people don't like Lean, especially in the West, because they're like, oh, that's boring, and then we don't get to be creative. Well, guess what? The people in Toyota and other people that do Lean well are actually more creative because they spend all their gray matter. They don't have to worry about, I do this step, then this step, then this step. That's already laid out. But what they can do is go, gosh, when I'm doing this step, if I just turn this 20 degrees to the left, I bet I could move 10 seconds. Or whatever it is, and there's programming stuff and all that. So that's Lean. Six Sigma is you're going in there and you got clocks and you're measuring everything. And I shouldn't say that. I love Six Sigma. They just have their place, and it's all statistics and probability. So the example you gave, so lean, I would just come to you and probably interview the people in your company, and then we'd probably go to, like, say we took a month sample, we'd go to the people that you're representing that got jobs, and we interview them. So that'd be kind of lean, and then we get, oh, I noticed a theme, I noticed this, so we'll get this, let's try this. That'd be lean. It's very quick, down and dirty. Six Sigma would be like, okay, here's the numbers. We're going to do a design of experiments. Okay, I'm going to pick your brain, Ross. What are all the factors that you believe contribute to this? You get a list of, say, 5 to 20. It's like, okay, first we're going to do an experiment. I'm going to see what are the top 5. It's like, okay, from this 20, we went to the top 5. Now we're going to do a design of an experiment. We're going to do all the combinations of those top 5. We'll run an experiment, and it'll show us which combination is best, that we get the best results. Statistically different, running the numbers, and you get all these factors, and you go, and yes, that is significantly different. It's the problem with statistics and probability is they're never the absolute truth. And I think that's the problem with people too. People think science is the absolute truth. No, it's not. 99.9% of science is a theory or a model. It's what the best knowledge today, how we think something works. And that helps us build, as humanity, get better. And then when we get better, we go, aha, this model doesn't work. So for example, Einstein, genius, one of my favorite historical figures of all time. Some of his quotes, I love his best quotes. In fact, my company is actually a misquote because he actually didn't say it, which I was kind of sad about, but it's still a great quote. It's like if you're a fish attempting your whole life to climb a tree, you're going to be disappointed all your life. But he didn't say that. But Einstein's with creativity. That's our theme. But regardless of that, so people are like questioning, was Einstein really a genius? Because a lot of his theories are proving to be incorrect. So I would offer this to you. We would not be at the place we are today to question his theories, to say they're incorrect, had he not had those theories and models in the first place. So he advanced knowledge. He may have eventually been proven wrong, but because of that, like Stephen Hawking, I'm not a big fan, but many of his theories, like we play on that, it's like, well, Big Bang Theory, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know if that really works, but if it does, but even if it didn't, and all those things about quarks and black holes and all that stuff, even if that ends up to not be true, he's advanced the knowledge because people are either challenging it or trying to prove it, and then we learn something.
Okay, well,
that's how you grow with numbers.
So let me go back here because I like where Rob was going because we want to get a difference between lean and Six Sigma.
I got to wiggle him in.
I got to read back in. So on the lean side, it was more with interviewing the people involved from their perspective to get information, whereas the Six Sigma focused more on the statistics. Is that correct?
Yeah. So in essence,
okay, all right.
I would say Six Sigma, you're doing hardcore number measurements. You're still using the people. In lean, you're relying on the people, sometimes more qualitative than quantitative.
Got it. Okay. So with that in mind, let's say I've got a business or I've got a department that I'm trying to grow, or heck, if I'm a person trying to grow in my career, I'm trying to look for that next job.
Right.
Give me some ideas on the ways I can decide what direction I'm going to go with my research to try and figure out this problem. Like how do I get from point A to point B? How do I get from where I am to growing? What are some systematic ways that I could take some of this knowledge that you have and apply it to my life situation? Whether in my case it's looking at my recruiting numbers or with my clients, or if someone's looking at growing their business, what are some things we could use to apply this to help fuel growth? That was the point I wanted to make sure we cover on the show.
So like for your business, we'll go there first and then we'll go for job applicants. But for your business, I would look at someone or a bunch of someones that you consider competition.
Okay.
And you look at what they're doing and you see what you're doing the same and you see what you're doing different. And then if they have better numbers in some way, then you have to experiment and go, oh, we do X. Let's try X. We're going to freeze everything else. We're going to do everything the way we've been doing it, but now we're going to change it up with doing X, and let's see what happens. And that will give you information. And guess what? Sometimes you're going to fail, but every time you fail, you learn something. I mean, look at Edison. They say he tried 10,000 times the different filaments, but I think it was actually like 9,972. Okay, it's close to 10,000. But if he didn't, when he was asked, he goes, "Do you regret doing that?" He's like, "No. If I hadn't done the first 9,974, I would have not ever gotten to the thing that worked."
Absolutely.
So we don't have enough time to do that. So you got to just make educated guesses. So you can learn, like talk to someone like me or someone else who's good at numbers, or even Rob in his auditing practice. He could figure out ways to look at the data and then things to try. And so you can lower the number, your attempts to do it. So that's how I do it as a company, because you have access to more data. As a job seeker.
Wait, no,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, that's hold on a second.
Hold on.
Right, so Robert, he said, Robert remembers that Big Bang Theory episode, by the way, and he says
that was awesome.
Also,
it was one of the best.
He says a yottabyte is a galaxy far, far away.
Yes, it is. It's very far away.
And
I think
Charlene,
it's a billion, if I'm not mistaken. No, it's a trillion, I think.
Okay, and Charlene is here. Hi, Charlene. She says, "Happy Monday. Drop by to show some love." Thank you, Charlene. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Charlene, sister. She's my sister.
So here's what I want to do, Mark. I want to carry this a little further.
Okay.
Because
I'll try to restrain myself and answer
before we go to the job. Yeah, before we go to the job section, let's stay with this for a second. Okay. So I like what you said, because I've actually made this mistake more than once. And guys in the audience, let me know if you made this mistake. You're trying to get from point A to point B, and you're trying to do some things to help grow your business. And so you actually implement multiple changes at one time, which what I just gathered from Mark is that's not the way to go when you're trying to do Lean Six Sigma. You try and basically just make one change and then analyze that change, whatever that change was. And maybe it's something you saw your competition do, or maybe it's an idea you have, or what have you. But that's what I got from that. Is that a key point?
So that is the best way to do it. Sometimes you can't afford to change just one thing, but if you can, yes, because eventually you'll get there faster than to change a bunch of stuff. Because if you change a bunch of stuff, it'll just be like the ice cream shark attack correlation. It's like, yeah, guess what? Ice cream sales did go up and shark attacks did go up. So they must be related. Well, they're correlated, but they didn't cause each other. So in business, you want to know the causality, because then you can do it again and again and again.
Yes. See, you just helped me. I think we could literally stop the show right now, and this actually would have helped me because.
Okay, see you. Uh-oh, my dog agrees.
See, you got the dog all excited now.
Uh-oh.
No, I think that a lot of us have done that. Guys in the comments, have you done that before? Have you made several changes at one time, and then maybe you got some positive results from it, or maybe you didn't get positive results, and you're thinking that those things you did caused it, when it may have been perhaps one of the things you did and maybe none of the other, or right. perhaps if you just would have implemented one and not the other thing, maybe your results could have gotten better when they actually didn't get better at all, because the other thing you did actually hurt the other thing you changed.
And each of those things cost time and cost money.
Yeah.
So if you only did one, spent less time and money, and you got the same results.
Yeah. I like that. It's very good. You actually helped me. So Yvette Bonilla, hello. She says, about how long do you wait to see a change before moving to the next thing? Now that's a really good question. Okay, so from a Lean or Six Sigma perspective, how long should you analyze the data before you make some kind of assessment off that data? I like that question. Thank you, Yvette.
So that's not an easy question to answer. So in Six Sigma,
we're not going to give you any easy ones, okay? We're not going to give you easy ones.
So Six Sigma, well, I'm trying to give a simple answer too. So you look at the population is everything and every member of a certain category. That's a population.
Okay.
So rarely, if ever, can you look at a population. If we could look at a population, it needs statistics, wouldn't need probability, because you just go, guess what? 3 out of 100, blah, 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 because you'd have the. And that's what, by the way, that's what Facebook, I'll just call them their regular names that everybody knows. Facebook, Google, and Amazon will be able to do that in spades. But so time-wise for Lean, if you do it once and it changes, I would just do it a couple times, confirm. There's formulas to do it. But a general rule of thumb, when you don't have all the information, I would say try it 3 or 4 times, and if you get a positive result every time, you can hedge your bet and say that's going to happen again. Or lean. For Six Sigma, you got to look at the population and then figure out sample size, etc. So it's not really for Six Sigma, it's less a time thing than it is a numbers game, which is that's why I have this.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those
Six
who
Sigma is
just
all
came
about
on,
extrapolating from limited, incomplete data. And most of my Six Sigma counterparts would probably punch me in the face. No, it's complete data. No, it's not. Never, ever, ever, rarely do you get to look at a whole population.
Okay, so
not
Robert
even the
says
census, it's a population.
So yeah. Robert says, I've only done that once or 1,000 times. Laugh out loud.
Yeah, there's Rob and his sense of humor. Funny,
okay,
man.
but I like this.
Like
so you make the change,
yep.
And if you do it 3 or 4 times in a row and it makes the same change, you're on to something at that point.
Yeah.
Okay. But then on the other side of the coin, the Six Sigma methodology would mean that you would take you would go over population. When you say population, you mean like, okay, I'll give an example. Let's say for me, we're talking about recruiting, and let's say I have a client that has 300 nurses, and they're looking to add on an additional 50 nurses. Would my population be 350 that I'm trying to analyze? How would that work?
Well, if you don't have the 50 yet, it'd be the 300.
Okay,
but
so
rarely,
300.
Rarely do so statistics deals with sample. So what you're trying to do with Six Sigma and statistics and probability is predict the behavior of a population, which is all members in a certain group. So like, for example, even though you're looking at a specific thing, say, let's do population nurses. I don't know how many nurses there are, but there's got to be tens, if not hundreds of millions, right?
It's 3 million. Well, it's actually 4 million that are licensed, 3 million that are working in the United States.
Okay, so that'd be the population.
Registered nurses, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that'd be the population. And you want to take a smaller sample of that because it saves you time and money, and then extrapolate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
Sample data.
Okay. So I have
try to predict what the population does.
So I have a follow-up question on this. Okay, so let's use an example of, let's say, 3 million working nurses, for example, registered nurses. How big of a sample size should I use for it to be relatively accurate? Would you recommend?
Depends what you're looking at. It depends. It's not just nurses, though. You're looking for certain attributes, correct? So you'd have to determine.
Yeah. So right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you'd have to determine it. It's be different for every population size, and there's an easy formula for it. But once you have that,
all right.
But this is the thing, though.
Okay.
This is where. Go ahead, ask your question.
Well, here's the thing. I want to give folks some actionable things they could use, right, from this conversation. Right. And no one's going to be a Lean Six Sigma expert after watching our show for an hour. We know that, right? There's always going to be contingencies and other things they can take into consideration, ways they can be more accurate and all that. I'm not going for that. I just want to give them some tidbits of what could I do that is along those lines. And then if they like what they see or like what they experience, they can always learn more and go to an expert like you and that sort of thing and go forward. So just from a basis standpoint, would you say, let's say, if it's 4 million nurses or 3 million nurses, let's say 1,000, would that be a reasonable number? Or am I just like shooting way too low? If we're talking about all registered nurses.
There's lots of things that can help you determine sample size.
Okay. All right.
There's this thing called a Z-test. We're not going to go there. But it depends on what level of confidence, which is a very specific statistic term.
Yes.
Depends on what level of confidence you want in your data. Okay. So all level of confidence does for you is you will never, unless you have the population, you're never 100% certain. So what a level of confidence will do, and by the way, the United States is messed up in this, so I'm going to use a simple example. In all other countries that I know of, when a meteorologist says there's a 95% of chance that it's going to rain today, they are saying that under the same conditions, barometric pressure, sunlight, cloud coverage, blah, blah, blah. 95% of the time it rained. But au contraire, in the United States, most meteorologists go whatever area they're reporting to. So say it's the greater Raleigh-Durham area. When they say it's 95% chance of raining, that means it's raining 95% places that they cover, which is bull crap.
Oh,
so anyway,
okay.
the level of confidence in that situation,
Okay.
they would have a great big old sample size because weather's been tracked for a very long time. For the
Okay.
nurse thing, your level of confidence starts to decrease because you don't have a lot of the data, which is why
Okay.
we're trying to do this. So once you pick,
Okay.
you're like, I'm okay with a 0.05 level of confidence, which basically means 95% of the time, with the sample size I have, my conclusions will be 0.05 level of confidence correct. Doesn't mean
Okay.
they're correct 95% of the time. It means I have a level of confidence that, yeah. So that determines the
Okay.
sample size, by the way.
So those who are
So
just
the normal
joining.
person, yeah, 1,000's probably good.
Okay. So those who are
But
just
on the
joining.
internet, this cool thing, internet, just go sample size and it'll have formulas for you. You just plug it in and it'll give it to you.
Yeah. So those
Which
who
is,
are
by the
just
way, what I
joining.
do, even though I know.
Oh, Mark, hold on one second. Hold on one second.
All right,
So
well,
those who are just joining, this is what we're doing right now. We're trying to say ways of Lean Six Sigma and just numbers. How can we use those things to help us to fuel our business or whatever project that we're working on? And one of the things that I've learned from Mark just now, whether I don't know if it was intentional or not, is that when we're looking at making changes, right? Try and just make one change at a time if at all possible. If you
if
can afford
possible.
it, just make one change at a time and then analyze that change over at least 3 or 4 times to see if it comes up with the same consistent result. And if it does, that means you may be on to something according to the lean principles. Now, I know that there could be contingencies. I know that there could be other things to consider.
Yep.
But based on what I just said, is that somewhat correct, Mark?
Yeah, it's somewhere correct. My only caveat would be you need to observe the other stuff too, just in case something weird happens.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Okay.
you
All right.
yourself are only going to change one thing. Yes.
Okay,
It's a
all
good
right.
way
So
to go.
that's okay. So I feel like we got somewhere there. Okay, now once we start taking sample sizes, which I also like that too, that depends on a lot of different things, and it depends on our
Yep.
confidence in the data. Now, here's one thing I will suggest, and I'm going to use this in my practice, and those of you who are watching, tell me if it makes sense on your end. But whenever you start to do this study, I think it's good to have buy-in from the other people who are involved, who are going
Oh,
to take this
100%.
data and who are going to act on this data and say, look, we're not looking for 100% confidence because there's too many variables there. Can we all agree on 90% confidence or 80%? Like come up with an amount that everybody can agree
Yeah.
upon and then make that as the effort. Because to get to 100, here's one thing I found, Mark, and I want to ask you this, is that I have learned in my business that I can't go for 100% because if I go for 100%, it's
Right.
going to take too long to figure it out. It's too many
Yep.
caveats. So you know what? We're going to go for 90% accuracy on this report, or we're going to go for 80% accuracy on this
Yep.
report. How does that even work in your side? Does that like do y'all ever
Yes.
do that? Just,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. So the usual, it's people pick one of three, 85, 90, or 95.
Okay.
And by the way, the cool part about that
Uh-huh.
is say the population, what do you say, it's 7 million nurses or something?
3 million that are
Oh.
working.
As you can tell, I'm really good with numbers. I said 7 million. No, for 3 million. And then in your area you were working, I can't remember, you gave an example of working with a company that had 3,000 and want to go to 3,500.
There are some
So he
companies
said-
that yeah, I said 300, but it's just some that
Oh,
are
300 and
3,000
you
as
want to go
well.
to 350. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So the cool part about that is the sample size will become much smaller than 350. So when you got the population, you're at 100%, right? Because you're looking at
Mhm.
everything. As soon as you come down to 95, it'll be greatly smaller. You go to 90. By the way, kind of recommend don't go lower than 90.
Oh, really? Why
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that? This
Just
this might be.
You'll
good for
have
us to know.
better results.
Okay.
It's the biggest. I mean, I like 95 personally, but it's the biggest compromise between effort
Okay.
and what you get, and extrapolating on incomplete data.
Well, you know what? I trust you on that. By the way, Chiman Rafalia, I hope I'm saying that right. Is it Chiman or is it Chiman? I'm not sure, but I love that name, by the way. So he says good example. He liked that. And Robert Barry, he also says good example. He says it's all about reducing the probability of bad outcomes while increasing the probability of good outcomes. What do you think about that, Mark?
Yeah. And then there's 30 is like a magic number too.
Oh,
No matter
why?
what size yeah.
Why is 30 a magic number? I'm curious.
Oh, well, I don't want to explain the central limit there.
Okay. Don't explain. Don't explain. I probably don't need to know.
But at that point, no matter, well, unless it's really, really large, but we're not dealing large, but 30 is usually something you can handle. So it's practical.
Okay.
And then it's also has some significance. So depending on the sample size, it's depending on the population size, 30 might get you 80, but 80 is better than nothing, right?
Okay, so let me ask you this: whenever we see these, surveys, right? They'll do like this Gallup survey or such and such survey or all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
When they do these surveys, and for example, let's say they're doing a survey on the United States population. There's 329 million people in the U.S. roughly, give or take, 329 million, and then usually maybe they only interviewed like 1,000 people.
Yep.
So from a Lean Six Sigma standpoint, how accurate is that? I'm curious. Is there a high level of accuracy in that?
So most people are lazy, and actually most of those surveys, if you look at the data, it will tell you. It'll say, hey, we sampled 1,000 people with this, and it'll tell you the degrees of freedom and all the information and blah, blah, blah. It'll tell you all that stuff, usually, if it's a good survey. You don't even have to do anything. It'll tell you.
Yeah, but usually...
And then you have to determine if you want to go with that data or not.
That's a good point.
Problem. Most people don't. They just go, out of 1,000, they said this. Great, I'm going to go that way. Well, hold on. Here, I'll give you an example. Let's say how can I do this without being... No, I'm just going to do it. Okay, so you're doing a survey on you're doing Biden's approval rating, okay? And you do a sample of 1,000, and you say it's a random sample, which means you're just going to anybody, everybody. You might have like a random number generator or whatever. However, the area you're doing it in, you're like a block away from some big venue that just had a Trump rally. Guess what?
Oh,
that's going to be a totally biased survey.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
And
then you get into stuff like examples, and you get different sampling. So like if you know, for example, let's say, what did I see? I think 12.5% of the population is African American. I think 13% is Latino. And then whatever that is. So if you want to do a stratified sample that represents a thing, it's like, okay, first of all, we're going to do 1,000. So whatever 12.8 is 128. So 128 have to be a Latino. 125 have to be African American. You know what I mean? So that's a stratified sample. You're trying to get the sample that emulates the population. However, please take note of that example I just gave you. Proximity in area and events can sway that. So he's got to be. I
never thought about that before.
He's got to be very. He's got to pay attention. It's easy to think about and avoid stuff like that. Just most people don't. Oh no! It's simple.
Especially Mark, if you have bias. If you have bias before you start it, obviously you're just going to overlook all that stuff.
Oh, no kidding! Social media has created a biased society because of all the algorithms and stuff. People, guess what most algorithms do in search engine and stuff? They basically feed what you're searching on in the first place, so it's reinforcing your opinion. So you don't get to see things that are contrary.
Yes.
So that messes everything up. And it reinforces, I can't think of a better word. It reinforces idiocy.
It reinforces, let's just say it reinforces bias.
I like that.
It reinforces bias. So if you have a bias, and I think a lot of folks who deal with social media, I want to say a majority of people don't really understand how it works, because they'll say, I use LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is just so political. I'm thinking, well, the reason why LinkedIn's so political is because you interact with political content on the platform. Otherwise, it's not going to show you more of it. Because
Correct.
if every time you saw something political, if you just swipe right past it in the feed and never looked at it, LinkedIn is going to keep you on the platform, so it's not going to show you that anymore.
Exactly.
So
Perfect
it's like that with
example.
TikTok. And like with TikTok, they said, "Oh well, TikTok, it's nothing but dancing and lip syncing." Okay, well,
That's because
how
that's
much
what
lip
you look at.
exactly? How much dancing and lip syncing did
Yeah.
you watch on there? Because look,
Yeah.
the AI does not. They don't have it. Doesn't have any like preconceived notions. It's going to
Right.
go with whatever. It's going to go by behavior. So whatever
Yeah.
you do on the
Like I get all
platform,
comedy.
it's
Unfortunately, a lot of it's not funny, but it's labeled comedy. And I'm like, whoa, that was terrible. I understand where he's going with that, but that wasn't very good.
okay, I'm ignoring the comments. I don't want to ignore the
Uh
comments
oh.
here. Okay, so Carl, hey Carl, he says, hey, two awesome fellows. Hey, you're awesome too, bud. Appreciate you being here. Robert says the sample size is very important. I'm always leery if they don't disclose the basis behind the sample population. Very good point, Robert. Thank you.
Robert, that
Uh,
is excellent. You are an honorary Six Sigma guy now.
there he is. Yep. And Charlene says, yes, searches reinforce what you want to hear if you don't do it right or understand it. Yes.
Correct.
And see, that's another thing. Okay, people still think that the internet is based off of searches, and to some extent, yes. But I would say more to a much greater extent, it's based on behavior. Why do I know that? Because I'm a marketer online, recruitment
Yep.
marketing, and I can identify roughly almost all the nurses, even through LinkedIn. If I go on LinkedIn right now, and I say, look, I want to do a campaign that's just directed towards registered nurses.
Right.
It'll give me a number that's about 3 million. And guess what? If I go to BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics report, and I see how many nurses are working right now, it's 3 million. So
Yeah.
they're pretty spot on these things. They know.
Yeah.
So whether they were looking for a registered nurse job or not, LinkedIn still knows they're a registered nurse.
Right.
So I don't. A lot of people don't realize that when we think about searches, it's definitely still a big part of the internet.
Well,
But I would say a bigger part is probably like the AI and the behavior stuff. What you're doing. That's what.
well, yeah.
Really,
Nobody reads their end user license agreement, which is why I get upset with people who get upset. Oh, it's like, okay, guess what? Show me your search history. Show me the sites you go to free, that you love having free, and that you signed an end user license agreement, and that you're complaining about how did they get my data? It's like, hey, look at phrase 3.8. We will use your data and share it with our partners. And by doing this, we will give you access to our website. So you did it. You did it yourself. I mean, I do that
that's so.
too. I actually read them and I'm
I'm guilty.
like, okay,
I'm
it's worth
guilty.
it for me to have access to this website for free.
I
They
don't
use
read
my
any of that
data. I'm
stuff.
not going to buy their crap anyway.
I'm just figuring. Look, basically, I gotta agree to this thing to use the service. So I just go ahead and agree to it. Half the time I don't even read it.
Right.
That's
But I mean, so you're probably not a person I'd get mad at. Let's get mad at the people that get mad at the site. They use my data. That's the only place I ever shared that data. I go, they told you they're going to share your data. That's
oh,
why you
guess
get it for
what?
free.
Robert says he's actually Six Sigma green belt.
Oh, there you go. Good dude.
He's a
I
wow.
knew I
Look at
liked him for
him.
some reason. I thought
Okay,
it was a sense of
Charlene.
humor, but it must be the Six Sigma connection.
Charlene says stats are manipulated more than people know. You need to know how studies are done and where the data comes from. That is so true, Charlene.
Okay, hold on. So there's two definitions of statistics.
Okay.
Statistics are elements of a sample. So in that, so I agree with her if you're defining it that way. But the actual science of statistics, if you're following all that stuff, and they tell you it's 90%, 95% confidence level, blah blah blah. We took it 1,000. Most people, nothing personal, but most people are too lazy to look at any stuff. And yes, they find a statistic that they think says what they're going to say, and then they repeat it without any analysis. So there's two sides of that story. I don't think statistics, the science collection and study is biased. I think people use them for their bias, if that makes sense. I was trying to make
That's
it
what she
clear.
said. She said that stats are manipulated. So she's saying people are manipulating the data, or manipulating the way the data is used. At least that's what I gather from it.
Oh,
And that's
okay.
yeah. So maybe you guys agree fully on it. She also says exactly, Mark. Folks give all their data, and then they're shocked that their data is sold or reshared.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so true.
Yeah. Because I'm about
Yeah.
to do a class, and the my marketing person has convinced me that based on the price point, I should be focused on a certain audience. It's like C-level and director and
Oh,
above.
okay. Uh-huh.
So yeah, my campaign, I'm gonna look at that. But I mean, anybody could take it. But it's like, okay. I mean, and she has data. I kind of looked at the data. I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Cool. Okay, guys, in the comments, I want to ask you guys a question. And everyone needs to answer this, okay? It's because we got Robert and Charlene here. We got Carl's here. Okay. So you can answer one of these two, Mark, or both. Which
Oh, me.
classic movie? Yeah, you and you and the folks in the comments, okay?
Okay.
Okay, which classic movie is your favorite?
Ooh.
Or what's your best hidden talent?
Wow.
Guys in the comments, I want you to answer the same questions.
So, what's classic mean, by the way? Because it's changed.
However you defined it. No, it just
Right.
it's however
Fair
Mark
classic
defines
movie.
it.
I think My Favorite Wife with Irene Dunn and Cary Grant. It's goofy.
Ah,
It's got a weird story.
My Favorite Wife. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, Joanne, put that in the comments for me so I can look that up later.
Yeah. So it's Cary Grant and Irene Dunn.
Okay, very
By
good.
the way, interesting factoid about Irene Dunn. She
Uh-huh.
is the one who took a larger study and she boiled it down to the phrase that a lot of us cite. All it takes for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing. She's the one who kind of boiled that down in an interview.
Really?
It's from a previous
Interesting.
study, a long article in like Reader's Digest or something. But yeah, she's the one who boiled it down to that phrase.
Huh. Okay.
Anyways,
All
My
right, so-
Favorite Wife.
Okay, guys in the comments, what's your favorite classic movie? And classic is however you define it, okay?
Yeah.
So right now, today, on February 28, 2022, I'll have to say one of my favorite movies probably is going to be, I'm going to go with Anchorman right now.
Okay. See, I wouldn't consider that a classic movie. That's my problem. That's what I was asking.
Well, it's like 18 years old. It's
Oh, I
not
know.
an old movie.
But I mean, my movie's like almost 100. And then Marx Brothers Night at the Opera is an honorable mention.
Okay,
Love that movie.
all right. Robert says, my best hidden talent is pretending like I don't have any. Very good. Okay, now Charlene, she clarifies, she says, I'm referring to the interpretations, not the science. But if folks also collect them properly, the data is also skewed. See, I'd say it's true on both those. Yep.
Yep, that's true.
And Robert says, say statistics 3 times really fast.
Statistics. Yeah, I'm not gonna probably make a bad word, knowing Robert.
Okay. Robert's going to go with Friday as his classic movie, and Charlene says she has a few. Face Off is a classic.
Oh, that's a good one. See,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I guess classic is defined by the age of which you saw that movie or before your time or whatever. It's Face
That's
Off.
how you-
I mean, John Woo
Yeah.
is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, and if you can, Charlene, I would suggest you go see his Hong Kong stuff.
Ooh,
It's amazing. The dude's amazing.
okay. Okay, I
John
have
Woo.
one more question. I have one more question for you, Mark. Before we
The Hidden Talent one, I've been thinking about that forever.
You've been thinking about that one, huh? Okay. All right.
think
So
I have
I got a would you rather question for you.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Would you rather have a wasp fly up your shirt sleeve as you ride a motorcycle at 45 miles an hour, or have the car hood fly open over the windshield at 70 miles an hour on a busy freeway?
Whoa.
And by the way, Robert says we're all young here. That's why the classics are a little bit newer
Yeah.
than what you expect.
Well, just so you know, all your classics, I love them. I just didn't consider them classic. I guess the Wasp.
Why is that?
Well, well, I assume that we're moving at speed in the busy traffic, and so if my hood flew up, it would probably crack my windshield, probably freak me out a little, and I'd probably hit a bunch of cars. If a wasp is stinging me, I could pull off to the side and get rid of it, and I'm not allergic, so. And there's a chance it wouldn't sting me at all.
Probably a slim one, but yeah, it's true.
I'm just telling you all my suppositions.
I wouldn't count on that one, but I guess it's possible.
But I'm not allergic either, so.
But you're on a motorcycle though, too, though.
Well, but I could easily pull over to the side.
Yeah.
Depending on the speed I'm going, I could squish the wasp when it's stinging me for the third time.
That's true. Okay, guys. So wait. Robert says, "Wait, what?" So I think. Okay. Oh, I think he's responding to Charlene. My best hidden talent: staying awake in a boring meeting. I think is what she's trying to say. Staying awake in a boring meeting. That's her hidden talent. She says, I'll be sure to check those Hong Kong films out for sure. So she responded to you on that. So, guys, in the comments, that's my question for you. My last one was, would you rather have a wasp fly up your shirt sleeve as you are riding a motorcycle at 45 miles an hour, or have the car fly open over the windshield at 70 miles on a busy freeway? I'm going to go with 70 miles on a busy freeway, because what I'm going to do, as soon as I see that happen, I'm going to be looking to my sides and in the back to see if I can swerve over to the side of the road and get off the road. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.
You don't think your windshield would break though?
It says over. It says over, right? So it didn't say it broke into.
Oh, it doesn't block your view or nothing?
Well, it says have the car hood fly open over the windshield. So in other words, it's blocking my view.
I go with the car.
But it doesn't bust the windshield, right? It's just blocking the view.
I go with the car then.
Yeah,
I changed my answer. Now that we've
clarified
the
answer.
data.
Did I talk you into it? Is that what?
No. I assumed it came, smashed the windshield. We were going at speed, 70 miles an hour, with all kinds of cars around us, and basically I caused a multiple car accident.
Okay, here's how I want to finish this up. I want to finish this conversation up. I want you to give me one warning of using numbers, right? One warning or thing that we want to avoid when examining numbers to fuel growth or examine our progress. Let's say even if you're looking for a job that's not working out, right? Yeah. So what's one thing that we don't want to do, or a mistake that you see when it comes to examining the numbers? And then I want to go to the second thing I'm going to ask you right after that is what's the one thing we should do for sure. So let's go with the thing that we should avoid, or the warning or something of that nature when we're examining the numbers.
This is going to sound weird, but don't take it at face value.
Like, I've always been taught it is what it is. The numbers don't lie. Look at the numbers. Blah blah blah.
That's correct, but
okay.
They go together. These two answers go together. Don't look at it.
Okay.
Don't look the face value thing, and then the important thing that will help balance that is context. You have to look at the context. Just look at the numbers. Like, one of my favorite commercials is the Trident commercial, where it says 3 out of 4 dentists recommend Trident. And then they show people 3 dentists at PCs, and they have yes, no buttons. And so they show the first 3 guys hitting yes, and then the 4th one is also a guy, and a bug lands on the no, and he slaps the bug. So we have no idea if he was actually saying no or slap the bug. So that's contextual. You have to look at that level of detail. And like Charlene said it best, you got to look at how they collect numbers, all the information around it. You can't just look at the numbers at face value.
I love that. Yeah. So don't take it at face value. Make sure you know the context.
Correct.
Now, when you said that about the context, is that the one thing they should do? Does that take that answer?
Yes. You got to consider the context. Yeah.
You know what? That makes so much sense.
People make crap up. You got to know the context.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like, for instance, I remember sometimes I answer career questions, right? So I give career advice to some folks, one off. I don't want to be somebody's coach, but I'll give them some career advice, right? So anyway, on Quora.com, so this guy asked a question. This is like, why am I not getting internships? Because I'm literally putting out my resume hundreds of times and I'm not getting a response. And my answer to that
Context.
was, oh yeah, exactly, context. I needed more context than that. That's
Right.
not enough
But
information.
those 100
That's-
times are easy apply. And they didn't
Yeah.
put a cover letter in, and they didn't read the company, and they didn't look at the qualifications,
Yeah.
and they didn't, yeah.
Yeah. One of the first things I thought of is to me, I think he lacks focus, because to me, if you're putting in hundreds of applications for internships, he's not really focusing, which means
Right.
that tells me. And I do need context, right? I need more context.
Oh, yeah.
But if I don't have it, I'm thinking, okay, I'm wondering if he's all over the place on industries,
Yeah.
and that could be part of the issue. And he has no relevant experience related to those particular industries.
Yeah.
And I say relative experience. Maybe he didn't study that particular thing in school or whatever the case is. But to me, that was not my first red flag. Actually, he thought it was probably a good thing, but I'm thinking I'm not sure if that's really good,
Yeah.
because just because if I apply for 2 and he applies for 200, but
And you
if
get
I apply,
yours.
and I get mine, he doesn't get his.
Right. Well,
Anyway,
I think most, well, not most, I think many job seekers don't realize the job, even if it's an internship, a occupation or whatever situation, that they think the only one qualifying anyone is the company qualifying the candidates. It's like, oh no. To me, more than 50% is you qualifying the company. Don't just work for anyone,
yeah, that's true.
because if you're
Absolutely.
miserable, it's not worth the money. And there's plenty, especially in today's, I don't know how you can tell me, but what I see, today's job candidate environment, there's like a labor shortage.
Oh, there's definitely a labor shortage, but it depends. It does depend on what positions we're talking
yeah.
about. But there's
Context.
definitely a labor. Yeah, here you go. Context. There is definitely a shortage, and I'll say this: the way that most job situations are set up or posted is they're relying on the person reading the posting
Oh, yeah.
to qualify themselves, right? So how many people, number one, don't see the ad at all? They just don't see it because they're not looking, whatever. They don't see it.
Right.
And then also, number two, how many people actually are reading that, whatever's there that you have there, and they're qualified. They may even be interested in the job, but just the way it's explained, they just don't end up applying. And then
Right.
others who don't really have any business applying for that job because they're not qualified, it's not the right fit, they apply for it anyway. So it can give a company a false view
Yep.
of the market, the labor market for that particular role or position that they're trying to fill.
And people got to make a distinction between must-haves and nice-to-haves. So, like, there was this perfect job thing that I just looked at in Puerto Rico, which I wouldn't mind moving to San Juan, but I'm hit like every note, and the nice-to-haves, I even had those, but there was one line at the bottom that I qualified myself out. It said, must be fluent in Spanish and English. I believe I am fluent in English,
But
and
not
I
in
know in
Spanish.
poco español.
I don't know. Maybe you should have still applied anyway. Who knows? Okay, Carl says, don't take at face value, especially when you don't know the context. People paint their own picture and putting you in the already done portrait. Yeah, that's true. Charlene says, thank you for that, Carl. Charlene says, stop listening to number sound bites.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree with her. People don't want to go. That's the problem. People do not want to go past the sound bites. You have to,
Yeah.
in order to compete with Google, Facebook, Amazon, Alibaba, all the people that have yottabytes of information, is to go past the sound bites.
Yeah. Oh, Robert says, Mark, what is the probability of a good outcome with the wasp? Laugh out loud. So Charlene, she says, I'll say the cover lid, no wasp for me. Thank you, Charlene. I feel the same way. Let's see here.
Well, after I
And-
used context, I changed my mind.
That's true. You're right. You did change your mind. But Rob says, Charlene, right. You crashed and get road rash.
Oh, on a motorcycle, yeah.
goodness. Okay, let's see here. Question. We'll make sure I didn't miss anything. That's been me. Many job descriptions were vague or convoluted. So true, Charlene. You know what ends up happening? I'll tell you guys the honest truth on this. I've seen companies do this all the time. They'll do one or two things. Let's copy our old job description that may be outdated. We're not going to double check and see if the job is even like this anymore. We're just going to copy and paste it. I've seen that done a lot.
Yep.
Number two is let's go on Indeed or LinkedIn and copy somebody else's job description and paste it in.
Ooh,
Yeah,
they
that
do
happens.
that.
Some do.
That's kind of dumb.
Now, obviously, the relationships we have with our clients, we know that we don't do that, obviously, but
Yeah,
I've seen companies do that, and I can
that
tell
doesn't
you
seem
this:
smart.
me 10 years ago, I've done that before.
Really?
You just go out there, you go for the same job, and you go out there on Indeed and you see what you like, and you just copy and paste it.
Oh, okay. I
But we
guess.
don't do that anymore, though. You can't do that anymore. Uh, Robert Robert says, habla un poco de español, Mark.
See, I'm
Uh,
in.
and Carl says the most popular soundbite is 7 figures in 6 steps. Oh my gosh, you're so true.
Second
Yeah.
figures and success.
And then Carl says, truth. It turns out that there's 6 steps within each step. Then oh yeah, and then Robert says, yeah, they spray and pray, post the position everywhere, and hope a good client applies. It's so true. One of the things I tell clients is that greater awareness of your job may not necessarily result in more applicants, qualified applicants,
Right.
because you may be spreading out information that's not appealing to your market. If what you're offering is not competitive with your market, or it's not a job that's particularly desirable, just posting it more places does not necessarily mean you're going to get better applicants. So you may
Yeah.
have to switch some things up in that job to make it more attractive to those applicants, or appeal to a wider audience. One of the two. Okay, Charlene says they swap job descriptions. Dang, yeah, now they do. That's just real talk. Here's what happens. Sometimes you have a recruiter or a hiring manager. They got so many positions, way more than what they can fill, and so they just find shortcuts. Everybody, we're always trying to find shortcuts. I mean,
Yeah.
recruiters do that a lot. So that's just one shortcut. It's one of many that we can do. Because that's actually a byproduct of sometimes the company giving the recruiters too many recs to work on. So if they've got
Yeah.
150 recs, 150. By the way, recs. I'm sorry, using jargon. Is a request for a person, right? If they have all these jobs, 150 of these, all of a sudden they're going to have to try and find some shortcuts to try and fill some of these jobs. So one of them is let's copy and paste job descriptions. I don't want to go back to the hiring manager and make sure everything on this job description is right. I don't have time to do that. I ain't got no time for that.
But is it okay to say you need 6 emergency room nurses specializing in oncology or something? Is it okay to just post one and say we have 6 positions?
Absolutely, we do that all the time. 7 days a week,
Okay.
twice on Sunday. Absolutely. But what's not okay and shouldn't be okay is that you have the job description for all registered nurses,
Right. Oh yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
you have like 10 departments, right?
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
and all you change is the title and the shift. No, 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 no. You got to do more than that. So that's one of the things that we've learned recently. You have to change. Well, listen, I cannot believe how fast this hour has passed by with you, Mark. I'm just going to check in with our audience and just see what they think of what's kind of transpired so far with our show. And wow, look at that! They're apparently super happy. And I'm really pumped because today we had Carl, we had Charlene, we had Robert, we had Chaman was on today. But I tell you, with Rob and Carl and Charlene, man, y'all made my day. Yvette, appreciate Yvette. She was on here too. They were so active today in the comments, Mark. I can't. It's tons of comments on here. So
Yeah.
thank you guys. You guys were
Well,
amazing.
consider who they were.
Yeah.
If you've ever known of those 3 or 4, I'd say Charlene's the quietest, but she's not the
Yeah,
shyest.
yeah, but
You know what I'm saying?
she's still got a lot to say. So
Oh
guys
yeah,
who are
yeah, yeah,
watching,
yeah. But I mean, that's why I said of those 3. That's why
yeah,
there's so.
guys who are watching, be sure and follow these guys too. Follow Mark, follow Charlene, Carl, Robert, all these guys. They always have great content. I would definitely recommend to check them out. Thanks
Follow
for tuning
Ross.
in today. Appreciate you being on, Mark. You were great. I got to point this way. Mark, you're great today. Appreciate you.
Oh,
And
I did
let's
the
say
same
bye to
thing.
everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Be sure and follow Mark.
Be sure and follow Ross.